Hey everyone, this is the Critical G. I'm just going to recap my thoughts on the Bali 9 executions that are very likely to be very soon. Apologies for the crappy audio in the last video. I'm recording from my car. I have a housemate who works funny hours and I don't want to wake him up, and so on and so on. So hopefully the audio is better. Obviously the video quality isn't so great, but I don't think that it's my pretty face that you tune into my channel for. So anyway, Bali 9, for those who don't know, the Bali 9 is a group of 9 Australian citizens who were arrested in Bali, which is part of Indonesia, an island in Indonesia, a holiday island in Indonesia that is frequented by many, many Australians. And they were arrested there for trying to traffic drugs. Now, I think it is pretty much accepted that they did. I'm pretty sure they pled guilty. So let's just assume that they were trying to traffic drugs, and under Indonesian law, 2 of them are now facing the death penalty, and they've attempted to appeal to no avail. And in the Australian mainstream media, a lot of people are saying, well, you know, drugs are bad, so they deserve to be executed, or they knew what they were getting in for, or something to that effect. So there are a lot of people who actually have no sympathy for them. Now, let me be clear. I don't like drugs. I don't use drugs. I'm not interested in hanging around people who use drugs. I actually think drugs are very bad for you. Now, I also do appreciate there's an argument that some people who take drugs are effectively medicating themselves because they've had a hard life or childhood trauma, and this is perhaps some drugs are perhaps a better alternative to other kind of accepted drugs like cigarettes and alcohol. I'm not really going to get into that debate. To me, alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, what have you, they're all about the same thing as far as I'm concerned. I'm not interested in any of them, with the caveat that I will have like 1 beer once in a blue moon. But beyond that, not my thing. So, what is being talked about is the fact that these guys are going to get the death penalty, and it's very harsh, and the Australian government should do something. But what isn't being talked about is the fact that drug trafficking is not, or should not, be a crime. Selling drugs to someone is simply a voluntary transaction. Now, it might be a sordid voluntary transaction, but it's a voluntary transaction. Unless someone is pinning you down and injecting drugs into your body and then charging you for it, it's a voluntary transaction, or some other contrived example to that effect. And so the fact that these guys might be murdered by the state of Indonesia and execution or what have you, those are just euphemisms. These guys are facing organized murder for participating in a voluntary exchange. The fact that they're facing the harshest possible penalty really aggravates the matter in one sense and also distracts from it. The real matter is that using coercive power to punish people for participating in a voluntary exchange is immoral from the outset. Whether you're going to face the death penalty, whether you're going to be tickled with a feather, whether you're going to pay a fine, whether you go to jail, these things are all immoral. They're just executing someone, murdering someone for this victimless crime is just extremely harsh and gratuitous. So, in addition, the fact that a lot of people in Australia, at least according to one poll, perhaps even a slight majority, say that these guys should get the death penalty, shows you the underwhelming lack of any kind of moral clarity in the mainstream media and of course amongst the majority of people who participate in such polls. And if they are representative in any such way, then really they're representative of the people who vote. So, although you won't get a lot of support for people for the death penalty in Australia, what you do have is a voting public that actually has no moral clarity and will simply go along with whatever seems to be the most expedient or most convenient or most beneficial policy in their eyes. So this is what our coercive democracy brings us. So if you don't know, in Australia you actually have to vote by law. You don't even get a chance to say, I don't want to vote. So that's, of course, given rise to all sorts of to the phenomenon of the donkey vote, where you basically cast a vote for no one. But in order to avoid a fine for not participating in the elections, you go along, you have your name ticked off, and then you go and do whatever you want with your ballot. I mean, it's a secret vote. We're not in the Middle Ages, but it's equally coercive. And really, I can't say that I'm very surprised at all by the fact that people who participate in the polls on this topic have no consistent morality. The same people who would oppose the death penalty here support people being murdered in another country for victimless crime. What can you say? This is a very clear example of why there is so much wrong in this country. Luckily for Australia, there's less wrong in this country than in most of Europe and in many ways the United States. But if those two regions ever sorted themselves out, then this country would look pretty shabby by comparison. What do you guys think? Feel free to comment down below, hit me up on Facebook or Google+, check my blog, thecriticalg.blogspot.com. Link, like this video, make a video response, favorite if you really want to. Thanks for watching. You've been listening to The Critical G.